Test 1 2 1 2. Test 1 2. Ace, can you hear me?
Let's do it.
All right. Hey, everybody. Welcome back to Ken Bouchard Online, your weekly stop for everything nerdy and nothing and everything all at once. I'm Ken Bouchard, the host, and joining me is my friend, the Ace of Knaves.
Yeah, I'm
Hey.
here.
Yeah, he's here. He's
I'm
here.
here.
He's here. How you doing, Ace? We haven't talked in about a week.
I mean, I've been better. I've been better.
What do you mean
Had
you've
a,
been better? Like what? How can you not be good? Like what's up?
I'm pretty sure that I'm working on a kidney stone here.
On a kidney stone.
Yeah, my kidney not.
Kidney not, but what is this? Like your second, third?
Yeah, it's the second one.
How do you keep getting them?
Because I don't take care of myself.
Well, whose fault's that? You drink water?
Nope.
Why?
Because it's done. Doesn't. I drink water if it's got alcohol or iced tea in it.
Yeah, well, that ain't gonna help you.
You don't know that.
That'll be the anti kidney stone. That'll be like ah. Yeah, well, you need to drink water, my friend. Water or cranberry juice.
Oh, I do now.
Oh yeah,
Now,
now
now
that you
that.
need it.
Well, yeah.
No, that's not how it works. But okay. But I digress, everybody. Welcome to the show. If you're just tuning in, this is me and Ace bantering about nothing and everything all at once. The chats are live, so if you want to jump in and make a question, comment, concern, a funky noise, or just whatever, just go ahead and be our guest. Just remember, it's all inclusive, so don't be a jerk. Um, or Ace will bust you. He's my moderator.
Right.
He's on the other side, waiting and ready. So
I'm
let's
here.
not do that.
Let's not.
Let's not and say we did, right?
Yeah, let's just not do it.
So, on the news front on my side, I've been talking to our friend Tim,
Yeah, yeah,
and
yeah, yeah.
I threw out a little, I, 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 I I don't know what you want to call it, a proposal.
Okay.
I found office spaces for like
Ooh.
relatively cheap.
Hmm.
And I was like, hey, Tim, you guys are doing a Mike and Tim Gather podcast. You guys like to do like how to's on Magic the Gathering and gaming. I do my geeky shit like this. I'm like, why don't we go halfies on a office and create like a studio? So he's thinking about it right now. He's in Chicago, doing
Chicago.
doing some stuff. But he said it's on the table when he gets back home
All right.
because he's got to talk to his partner. But that'd be
Right on.
awesome if we can get it going. I mean, it'd be cool to have a studio
Right.
instead of my deluxe apartment.
In the sky.
I'm moving on now. So today, I got a couple things I want to talk about, like two in particular, really. I want to
All right.
discuss comic books with you first and foremost.
Oh, okay. Comic books.
Comic books. I mean, I'm a collector. I don't know about you, but I do know you like to dress up as the Joker.
Yes.
So I assumed somewhere in your life you used to read comics or collect comics or something.
Uh, I am a. Not much of a. Not so much a comic book collector. I do have a handful of them that I've amassed over the years of like not so much collecting them, just like, oh, I'm going to read this when it looks like a good storyline, and then I just don't either read it nor do I ever like it just gets put away.
I mean, some people do that. Some people buy
Uh,
just to collect, just to have. Some people do read. Me with comics, I don't necessarily follow a story arc or something like like I don't always buy like I gotta buy issue 4, issue 5, issue 6, issue 100, issue 101. You know what I'm saying? Like
right.
I don't usually do that. I go in and I'll look at comics and I'll be like, there's an arc going on, like just an arc, and I'll like it. You know what I mean? Like
Right.
a certain story arc. And originally, I started collecting comics. Oh God, I want to say back in like the early '90s. But when I moved to Florida and then decided to move back home because of issues, um, I gave all my comics away. Gave them all away. I was like, "F this, I don't need these no more." I regret it because now I'm getting back into comics.
Right.
But I like to consider myself a story arc collector, not
Okay.
necessarily like a comic book collector.
Gotcha. Makes sense.
And I'm going to show you a couple things that I cherish here in my collection. Like this is Spider-Man issue 1. I'm holding up here for those that are actually watching us live
Ooh.
or watching this on YouTube. This is Spider-Man issue 1 signed, as you can see right there, by the artist Clayton Crane. This is
Right there.
this is there's like the stuff that came with it, like a couple of his advertisements for the tour he was doing. But this is one of my babies right here in my collection.
That's how a Spider-Man comic should be.
All right. I got this baby, which is the comic itself is not it's not a pricey comic until I added something to it. So originally, here's the Rocky Horror Picture Show.
Oh, nice.
Right here, the first issue. Right? And the comic itself is probably like face value price. Until you look down here where I have Tim Curry's autograph
Nice.
right there on the right there on the cover, right by his character. So
Yeah,
that at least makes it $100 comic book because the autograph alone was about
yeah, right.
$100. But
Easily.
but this is one of my treasured comics. And it's not really a comic as much as it's a book. But just recently I picked up Stephen King's Creep Show,
Oh, nice.
which is it's his book. It's a book that he wrote like off of his movies, off of his movie Creep Show.
Okay.
But it is done very much comic book fashion, as you can see.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's just a couple of like the lot that I have. But
And
tonight,
I
yeah,
noticed, Ken, that the artwork in there is
mhm.
reminiscent of the artwork from the movie, like the comic book that they use in the movie as they
Yes,
introduce each story.
actually, if you look at it, like right here, the kid's holding the comic book,
Oh yeah, it is.
and then when you open it up, like the first story is Father's Day, right?
Okay.
And like that's that story right there, where the guy's like, "I want my cake, Bedelia.
Yeah. Nice.
Where's my cake, you bitch?" That's one of my favorite stories, by the way. Every Father's Day, I have to be like, I post a picture of him with the head as a her head on a platter as a cake, and like it's Father's Day, and I got my cake, and I was like, where's my cake, bitches?
Yeah.
But yeah, I love comic books. I like the more graphic ones, like the adult readers, the I'm not like My Little Pony shit. I used to. I will admit, um, I was a big brony. I was a big brony, and I used to have almost all the My Little Pony comics up to like issue 50. And then I just stopped because I was like, I can't do this no more. Can't do this no more. I end up selling all my comics to hopefully somebody's kid. not not some perverted old man. But I digress. Comic books to me are an escape. Like when I get to my arc that I like, I'll read it and I'll be like, this is amazing. This is why aren't there more movies like comic books? And I know there's been movies that have been made off of comic books, but there's so much more, like so many better stories in the comics that have yet to be told via video. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like just recently, within the last couple of years, they did the Killing Joke.
Okay.
Why it took them so long to do the Killing Joke, I don't have a clue. But I think if you're a Batman fan, and I know this is going to sound cliche, but if you're a Batman fan, you should not hesitate to read The Killing Joke. Now, are you familiar with The Killing Joke?
Absolutely.
I kind of figured with you being a Joker fan, I was like, you have
Yes.
to to know The Killing Joke.
Yes. I actually have the film as well.
Oh, you have the animation?
I do have the animated film as well. Yeah.
Nice.
I grabbed
Nice.
that up the day it was released.
I have The Killing Joke. I think I have it's a paperback.
Yeah.
But I've never seen the animation yet. I haven't brought myself to see the animation. I think what Mark Hamill
Mm-hmm.
came back as the Joker for it,
Sure did.
and it has Kevin Conroy, right?
It does. So
Yes.
it's a almost a runoff of the old animated series, but
Right?
not even
Just
close.
just so much darker. So
Not
much
even
darker.
close.
Like you get into the mind of the Joker. Like you see how twisted he is. And the best part of it, I'm not sure if the animation fits with the comic as well. So I'm just gonna throw this out there. Based on the comic book. If you follow the comic The Killing Joke, you see how dark Batman really is.
Yep.
When he laughs at Joker's joke at the end. You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
If you know, you know. That's all I'm
You
saying.
need
If
to
you
watch it.
know, you know. If you don't want to read it, watch it. But I highly suggest going to like Barnes and Noble or your local comic book shop and try to find The Killing Joke. It is a read. But I digress. Tonight is not about DC or Marvel. I have comic books here I want to talk about because I'm a horror fan. And I brought this all up because of these comics, okay? Excuse me. Hold on. I have a cough I can't get rid of. That's my issue tonight. Ah, thank God for cold water that you should be drinking.
Pump your water. Give me whiskey.
Show me the way to the next whiskey bar. Have you ever heard of Wildstorm Comics?
Wild Storm Comics. No, I have
It's
not.
like their logo's like a W and an S. I haven't heard of them either, but they did a lineup of Friday the 13th comic books. And are you familiar with Friday the 13th?
Uh, is that one of those killer films?
It's one of them killer things.
Yeah, I'm familiar
I
with
was gonna
it.
say you better know Jason Voorhees. He's got what, like 8 million movies under his belt.
Yeah,
I mean, you better be familiar.
yeah. I actually grew up with Friday the 13th.
I was gonna say Freddy.
Yeah, it was Friday the 13th.
Well, we grew up with Freddy too, but
and Freddy. Yeah,
I think there's
and Freddy.
more Jason flicks there are Freddy, believe it or not.
Yeah, either they're one better than the other.
And there's been more remakes of him too. But anyway, I found a story arc. It's only 2 comics long. It's a Friday the 13th, and why it caught my eye, why this whole thing caught my eye, is because when you hear Friday the 13th and when you hear Jason, what do you imagine? Besides that, besides the music,
Kevin Bacon getting a spear through his belly and coming out his back.
Okay, I'll buy that. You just picture nonsensical violence and bloodshed.
Yes, just
Just
yes.
premarital sex and slashing up people.
Yes.
All right. Well, I found a story arc that when I told Lady D of this story, she's like, and she's a horror fan like I am. She was like, "Why? I would love to see this as a movie." And I was like, I don't think you'll ever see this as a movie. But I digress. Drum roll all aside here. This is the story arc right here. Friday the 13th, How I spent my summer vacation. One of two
Mhm.
and two of two. All right. So let's go back to one of two.
Sure.
Take a good look if you can. If you're not, you guys aren't watching this on YouTube, then sorry, you're missing out on all the visual effects here. But you can see that there, Ace.
Ah, yeah.
All right, how I spent my summer vacation. The story of it, why it caught my attention the way it did, was because Jason is known as a serial killer. He's a slasher. He's just non. He doesn't think. He just does.
Right.
Well, in this story, um, there's a bunch of kids camping at Crystal Lake, and I mean kids. They're like younger kids at this point. Not like the teenagers having sex. I'm talking about just probably like preteen to early teen, right?
Okay.
And one of them just so happens to be just like Jason. Like he is deformed, he's mentally slow. But I mean, disability aside, he's at a vacation. He's having summer vacation.
All right.
But the kids make fun of him. The other kids torment him, bully him, uh, and they're even so far as to like they're hurting him to the point that violent, like really violent torment.
Okay.
Well, Jason, who lives within the woods of Crystal Lake, sees this, and when he sees the kid, he sees himself. So, in Jason fashion, he goes out and kills this kid's bullies, right?
All right.
Saving the kid from what could have been like life-threatening harassment. But then Jason takes the kid who's traumatized, mind you. He's slow and stuff, but he knows what's right and wrong, and he saw Jason kill these kids. So he's
Right.
traumatized. So Jason takes him along to where Jason actually lives in the woods. And he leaves the kid there. And over the course of time, he brings the kid food. And slowly but surely through the whole story arc, the kid goes from fearing Jason and what Jason did to realizing Jason saved him, and Jason gave him the courage to not be afraid anymore.
Right.
Jason gave him the courage to stand up to any future harassment. And by the end of it, the kid, like, rescue comes, the kid leaves, but Jason doesn't chase him. Jason kind of lets him go to go back into the woods and do what he does. And the kid leaves with a fondness of Jason. Like, he doesn't leave fearing what Jason did. He doesn't leave fearing Jason. He doesn't leave thinking Jason's a monster or anything. He leaves acknowledging that Jason bettered his life.
Hmm.
So Jason sorta took the kid under his wing and fathered him during his summer vacation. And that's why I really like this story arc of Friday the 13th, how I spent my summer vacation. Because it strays so far from what you imagined a
And
Friday the
that's what I
13th
was.
comic.
Yeah, I was just going to bring that up. That it almost ruins the character.
I don't know about it. I mean, like, he's still violent. He's still killing. It's just
He's
I like it because you might think it almost ruins the character. I think
right,
it actually gives a side of the character no one ever gets to see.
which is because he shouldn't have it.
But why?
If he
Why?
because he's just that. you said yourself he's designed as a slasher. I don't even want to call him a hero, a slasher film monster.
Okay.
But why would you want to give him humanity? Why would you want to make him a hero if he's designed to be the villain?
But is
That
he a hero
destroys
though?
what you built.
Is he a hero? I mean, he's still a killer. He's still going out there and going to kill people.
So now he's just Frank Castle instead. We already have that.
Yeah,
Is he
Marvel
going to start
already
wearing
has
a
a Frank
skull on his
Castle. You're
chest?
gonna if you go that route, then you're gonna be like, we can't have two Supermen. We can't have a
Okay.
dare. We
Well,
can't
that's
have
what
a
I'm saying, though.
we.
By saying that, though, then you're admitting he's a hero. By saying two Supermen or two Frank Castles, I'm not saying we already have that as being we don't need another one. I mean, that's that's what they just did. They turned him into a Frank Castle.
And they might have, but they only did it for that arc. It's
Yeah,
so I mean, okay, let me put it in perspective. Freddy Krueger, okay,
right.
kills children, kills children, kills children, kills children. But in your philosophy, right?
Yeah,
And Nightmare on Elm Street 2 should have never happened, and Freddy's Dead: The Final Nightmare should have never happened.
yeah. They're not.
Or 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 Wes Craven's A New Nightmare should have never happened because in
There's a
all
lot of
three.
things Wes Craven should have done that never should have
No,
happened.
no, 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 no. You don't diss the master. You don't diss the master.
Wes Craven's an old man with no talent.
He's dead.
Yeah,
He's
hence the
like
no
no.
fucking talent.
Okay. But yes, no, with I like the story. I thought it was a good twist.
Right.
I thought that the fact that he leaves at the end, he's still a monster. He's still a killer. Just this kid, he kind of took under his wing because the kid had the same issues he had that turned him into Jason. Like the serial killer we know became the serial killer we know because he was a deformed, mentally ill, challenged who ended up drowning because everybody ignored him.
Could have killed the kid and put him out of his misery.
You're mean. You're horrible.
That comic
I
book
hope
should have lasted 3 damn pages,
I
man.
hope this kidney stone of yours becomes a kidney boulder. Piss that out, Ace.
Well, when you're carrying the hose I do, you can.
Oh, listen to this. Big man walks with a big stick, apparently.
No, the big stick doesn't allow me to walk. I kind of hobble to the right.
Uh huh. Right. But anyway, I digress. That's one of my favorite story arcs, and uh they weren't cheap either. Like, I mean, they weren't
I bet
expensive comics, but it was like $50 for the 2 issues.
for comic books they were expensive.
Yeah,
Like not cheap.
for my budget,
Right,
they were
right.
expensive.
I feel that.
Yeah, but anyway, before we go on any further, I like to take this moment to remember. Let's
Remember,
remember
let's
that
let's
we are
let's
on Ken Bouchard Online, a show that comes on Tuesdays at 7 p.m. Eastern. You can join us for live chat. If you don't join us on Tuesdays, then you can check us out on Facebook where you can hear the podcast version or on YouTube later on where you can rewatch the show. Until then, welcome back to the live chat.
no.
But anyway, as I was gonna continue on, speaking of comic books, I got something that you would like, there, Ace,
Yeah,
because I know you were a big fan of Stan Lee, just like I
yes,
am. I
yes.
big fan. Praise be to Stan Lee. May he rest
Uh,
in peace.
don't
Um,
make me come down there, you punk. Oh.
yeah, right. Listen here, true believer. Start believing in Marvel, not Wildstorm. When asked if online comics would ever replace actual comic books, Stan Lee once said, "Comics are like boobs. They look great on a computer, but I'd rather hold one in my hand."
Here we go.
I I
Words of wisdom.
saw that and I was like, that's perfect for this episode. Words of wisdom from the great Stanley. Stanley Lieber, wasn't that his name?
Mm-hmm.
Stanley Lieber.
Yeah, Weaver.
But you just known as Stan the Man. Um, yeah, but yeah, I digress. I got some of my favorite issues of comic books. I have like Voltron comics. I just started collecting Gargoyle. Gargoyles
Okay.
came back out
Yeah,
with
yeah.
like comic books.
Nice.
I have my Rick and Morty's because I really love the I don't care what anyone says, it's like highbrow humor of Rick and Morty.
Yeah.
Um, what other comic books did I started collecting Vampirella just because she's like hot. just just because she's hot. I don't think I've ever read a Vampirella comic book, but man, the covers are like spicy, so I'm like,
Yeah. I mean, growing up,
mm.
I mean, I had like through the '90s, I had like all the franchise, the fresh franchise comic books, Bill and Ted's Excellent Adventure and Bogus Journey comic books, Ren and Stimpy. Um, I did, I did delve down like the super, was it Superboy?
Superboy.
Com Yeah, he had the throughout the '90s, he had the clone. DC was
Oh yeah,
doing the
there was a
clone.
whole bunch of them. There was what,
Yeah,
the Man of Steel.
yeah,
Then there was
yeah.
Steel.
So I followed a couple of those. I did keep track of those for a while. Anymore though, like I had like GI Joe comic books in the '80s. Um, He Man, of course. Like any of the ones that I saw that I watched the cartoons on, I would like try to convince my parents to buy. But as far as like sticking with that, not really. Like I have a couple stashed away, like I said, but collect comics. No, couldn't tell you who was in what series of issue, whatever. Like that's all
You know who,
completely.
the what, the where, the when, the why, and the how. You just don't know
Yeah,
when.
yeah.
You don't know
I
where. It's like,
couldn't tell you where to find it, but I can tell you that it's in a comic story, and you should probably read some articles to find out which issue it's in.
okay. That seemed
But
like
yeah,
that was a hard thing to come out there.
that was yeah. I
Like,
couldn't put my words together.
no, but no, I agree, and I highly suggest comics for the fact that, like, if you're a young reader,
Hmm.
if you don't like reading, like that was my thing too. I don't like reading. I can't, and it's not as much as I don't like reading. I don't have the attention span to read. Like, I'll start trying to read a book, and 5 pages in, I'm ready to quit.
Gotcha.
Where a comic book, I could read a comic book front to back because not only is there pictures, but it's easy read.
Yeah.
So if you're like me and you don't like reading, or you don't mind reading like little spurts, and you like these characters, like you like what Marvel, like the MCU, what the MCU's popping
Mhm.
out with the DCEU or the DCU or whatever they call themselves now, what they're popping out. Like, if you like the Hellboy movies, if you like the Transformer movies, if you like anything in that nature, I guarantee there's a comic book that started it all.
Right. I was just gonna say you would be surprised at how many movies you have seen that were based out of a comic book franchise.
Mm-hmm. Or here's another twist of fate: how many movies that were based off of big novels
Mhm.
that now have comic books?
Right.
I mean, there's a whole slew of reasons to check out comic books.
And the artwork.
The artwork,
The
depending on the comic
artwork.
book, the artwork's fabulous.
Yes.
When I told you I had Voltron comics, I'm not gonna whip them out because they're like somewhere in a long box here. But
Right.
the artwork blows my mind. Devil's Due and
Okay.
Image, I think both did a Voltron run, and both of which the artwork is, chef kiss, awesome.
Nice.
Mm. And
It'll
you want
drag you in almost every time, man. A good art on the cover will pull it every time.
and speaking of story arcs, you know how we were talking about story arcs?
Mhm.
The Voltron story arc from, I think it was Devil's Due, or it might have been Image. I'm not sure, one or the other. Uh is fan freaking tastic. It took the old cartoon series because that's what it had to go off of, and made it so much darker. Um, and I know you were a fan of the Netflix Voltron, right?
Mhm.
Yeah, and they even switched it up. But before Netflix took it and made an animated series that was kick ass, Devil's Due and Image put out these comics. And I remember in the original cartoon series, Earth created uh, a Voltron. It was a 15 vehicle team Voltron.
Oh, yes.
And our like the 5 Lion Voltron teamed up with the 15 vehicle team Voltron. Like they had to work together. Like
Okay.
like the 15 vehicle team, or I want to call it Diaruger because I always want to say Diaruger because I think that was the animation
Okay.
that they took. Because originally Voltron was Go Lion over in
Yeah.
Japan, and they turned it into Voltron in America.
Just Americanized it, just
And
westernized
there
it.
was another giant robot cartoon over in Japan called Diaruger XV, and World Events Productions took it and just made it Voltron season 2.
It's
seriously, seriously, that's what they
season two.
did. But they teamed up, they fought, blah blah blah. In the comic book, they emphasize that the lions don't operate just for anybody,
Yeah.
that you have to have a spiritual connection to the lion. So and it explains, like in the cartoon, every time the lions would get hit, you hear the pilot go ah as they were getting hit, right? But they never explained why the pilot is screaming when the lion's getting punched in the face. In the comic book, they explained that there's a spiritual connection between the lion and the pilot.
Ooh.
So, like when a pilot throws a punch, the lion throws a punch, and then whenever the lion gets hit, the pilot feels it.
Gotcha.
So
Hmm.
there's like a strong spirit connection. And in fact, um, if a pilot tries to get into a lion that isn't connected to them, the lion will reject them and almost kill them. Like it'll like ascend to like electrocute them. Like yeah, you don't belong here.
Right. Don't touch
So
me.
so Earth tries to copy this technology, but Voltron, being a creature of technical and spiritual being, they can't make it one for one copy. So when Earth tries to copy Voltron, that's why they make a 15 vehicle Voltron, because they have to like the power of Voltron can't be summoned up in 5 parts. They don't have the technology for that. They don't have the how to. So they had to make 15 vehicles to even come close to Voltron. And I guess you can call that a flaw. Like they have a 15 pilots to control one robot where there's 5 to control the other one.
Right? Yeah, you guys got that screwed up.
But yeah, it's a great story. It's a great story arc, and you won't catch it unless you pick up a comic book. You know what I'm saying?
Right. Yeah, things you wouldn't know you can find hidden in a book. Take a look.
Well, that was kind of screwed up, but yeah, take a look. It's in a book. A reading rainbow. Reading rainbow. Yeah. Good old days. Good old days of um old school PBS.
All right. Stay
back
tuned for more Bob Ross.
back when it was good. Yeah, Bob Ross. I never got. I don't. What was the whole fascination with Bob Ross?
Actually, I just had this conversation with Mrs. Naves. and
Mrs. the Knaves,
Mrs. Naves. Um,
Mrs. of Knaves.
yes. I my ex-wife, when we dated way back, um,
I hope so.
she was she was a great artist. She still is.
Hmm.
Um, I had never heard of Bob Ross until she was geeking out one day, like, "Oh my god, it's like 3 o'clock. We got to get downstairs, turn on the TV." Like, why? And it's PBS. I'm like, is like Thomas the Tank Engine on? Like, am I missing something? So we get down, so she puts Bob Ross on, and I'm like, what is this? Like, what am I watching? Right? Like, aren't we old? Are we a little old right now at 16, 17 years old to be watching a new generation of Mr. Rogers? You know what I mean? Like this, but
New
then I
generation of
started,
Mr. Rogers.
well, he's such a soft spoken person. The little mistakes, they're not mistakes, they're happy accidents. That that toned down voice, but between his artwork and that toned down voice,
Hmm.
I was drawn in, dude. Like just watching him create nature was the big draw for me. And of course, him being mellow about it, and that was a big draw for me too. Like, wasn't a whole lot of like, it's not a Picasso painting. It's not just splashing shit on there and just, you know, I was an amped up kid, man. I needed something that would like settle down a little bit, dude.
So
Sit down for a
Bob
half
Ross was your
hour.
Ritalin.
Yes, yes, he was my Adderall, like my Ritalin to my Adderall. Yes, he was. You know,
He was your mellow. He's like, I need to
yeah, it was
mellow.
just it was a half hour out of the day where I could just legit chill down and not have to worry. Again, heavy metal all the time. You know what I mean? Chaos all the time around me. A half hour
What
of
I
just
don't
somebody
understand
being
though,
like,
I'm sorry to interrupt, but I
yeah,
understand
yeah,
that when he was like on, right?
yes,
Or if you liked painting, but
yes.
just what a year or two ago, there was like this resurgence of
I
like
think,
Bob
in all honesty,
Ross.
yeah, I think in all honesty, I mean, I don't know what sparked that, but in all honesty, I just notch it up to something old being new again. A
Nostalgia.
generation, yeah, a generation. Somebody's dad turned it on for their kid to be like, "Hey, have you ever seen this dude?"
If you're bored, check this out.
Yeah, like check this out. You know what I mean? That kind of thing. I really do believe it was just really just something old becoming new again, and it was a. I mean, good for his estate and his family.
Right? If you're stressing out, you need to see some happy little trees.
Yeah, or learn how to paint some happy little trees, man.
You know who teaches Bob Ross, oddly enough?
Bob Ross.
Well, no, he's dead. He
Oh,
ain't teaching shit. I mean,
I mean,
probably
you don't know
reruns,
that.
but he's up in heaven being like, now we're going to put a little cloud over here.
You think, I don't mean to interrupt, but you think he turned to God and was like, "Why didn't you use cadmium yellow on that one?" Like,
God
you
would be
made this
so
up,
lucky to have Bob Ross there.
right? You think he's turned to Satan, being like, I think you need pitch black in that corner."
Yes. Yes, I do. But anyone that chipper doesn't go to heaven. I'm just saying, you can't go to heaven. It's not for you.
I I will say, from what I understand, this is true. He was a drill sergeant, and when he got out of the military, he swore that he wouldn't be that guy anymore.
Well, good for
That he
him.
wouldn't be, you know, hence why he turned to the mellow, you know, the mellow demeanor instead of always being like, "You made it, drop it, give me 15." You know what I mean?
Hmm.
Like, so yeah, he was, and his pet squirrels,
And his what?
his pet squirrel.
He had a pet squirrel.
Yeah, he rescued a squirrel and raised it back up and then set it loose again. But yeah, he kept it in the studio with him at times. He would bring it into the studio at times. Yeah, he had a pet chipmunk or something.
The shit you learn while you're on the show, huh?
I know, right?
I didn't know
Yeah.
that.
Also, he hated his hair. So
Well, I don't think anybody liked his hair. But before we continue on,
It is that time.
I want to take this moment to reiterate that this is Ken Bouchard Online, weekly show about nothing and everything all at once. Tune in Tuesdays at 7 p.m. Eastern as me and my friend Ace of Knaves talk about shit from comic books to cartoons to horror movies and everything and anything in between. It is literally the Seinfeld for your ear holes. So tune in to Ken Bouchard Online Tuesdays at 7 p.m. Speaking of Bob Ross, funny thing, I just watched. I know you don't have Shudder, and I know you don't watch like horror movies and all that stuff. So there was an episode of the new Creep Show because there's a new Creep Show series.
Okay, I'll have to
Uh,
look into that.
there's a new episode, or not a new episode. I think it was in season 2, and they're like on season 3 or 4 now. But there's an episode that has it does a whole spoof on Evil Dead. It's a spoof on Evil Dead, and it even has Ted Raimi, the brother of Sam Raimi,
Okay.
who, if you know, you know, Ted Raimi played Henrietta, the demon, in Evil Dead 2. Okay, so in this episode of Creep Show, there is this puppet show on like a public broadcast channel.
Huh? All right.
And when they go off the air, you find out that like it's like lamb chopish, right?
Okay.
But the host is a bitch. Right? She's a total bitch diva, and she's like, you know, screw this, screw that. Where's my time slot? I want a better time slot. Blah blah blah. In the studio, like next door to her, is like this Bob Ross type character. This guy who's like, we're going to make a painting, and we're painting this right here. And of course, he's like an older man with a beard, and he's making a happy painting, right?
Right.
So it's totally Bob Ross, quote unquote, right? And the next studio over is like same area, like different section, is like an antiques roadshow type thing, but on it is Ted Raimi, and if I remember correctly, I think he's playing himself. I'm not sure if he played himself or not, but he was the owner of an antique book. Yeah, you see where this is going, right?
Yeah.
And the person who's appraising the book reads from the book, possesses Ted Raimi. Ted Raimi becomes like a deadite. He goes after this person. Like the whole place becomes nothing but demons going after everybody, and it comes down to like Bob Ross and the studio director to save the studio. It's a kick-ass episode. That's all I'm saying.
Yeah, I would definitely have to check out. I love me some Creep Show. Yeah, they I said, for not being a horror fan, I mean, how can you not like Creep Show or Tales from the Crypt or those types
All
of
those kind of what do they call them? Not
almost like serial.
what was I gonna say? Episodic.
Yeah.
They're like episodic tales. I love them. I love them.
Yeah, they're always.
I grew up on those motherfuckers. Like there was. Oh wait, if I remember correctly, and I might be wrong, but for those who don't know, here comes my tapping into my horror knowledge, because I am the geek demon at this point. I'm tuning into my alter ego, the geek demon. I am like, you know, you've heard the faces of Foley. This is the faces of Ken. I have Ken Bouchard, the online nerd, but now I'm tapping into the geek demon. So give me a second. Creep Show was a movie written by Stephen King and George Romero, directed by George Romero, and it was done one movie, 2 movies, but after the second movie, they were supposed to make a series. The series did not get greenlit. I forget why, but in turn, they turned into Tales from the Dark Side. So originally, Tales from the Dark Side was originally supposed to be Creep Show.
Nice.
the series.
Hmm.
So if you're a fan of Creepshow the series, you have to watch Tales from the Dark Side because or Creepshow the movie, I should say.
Right.
You got to watch Tales from the Dark Side the series because they're technically the same. Different title, but they were the same. Like they didn't get Creepshow greenlit, so they turned it into Tales from the Dark Side.
Now, are not like on Tales from the Dark Side, are
Yes.
not the stories there more reminiscent of like Ray Bradbury and like Alfred Hitchcock?
They were more diverse. Like if you watch Creepshow, it's mostly horror.
Yeah, it was
It's
like almost
horror.
like almost a comedic horror.
Almost, yes. But when it came to Tales from the Dark Side, they had variety. It wasn't just all horror. There was um twists
Right, like the
like
suspense
stories of
and
revenge, stories of
yeah,
this that, but it was all with a paranormal twist.
gotcha.
Um, one of my favorite movies is actually Tales from the Dark Side, the movie.
Huh.
They made a movie starring young Joey. That's who his name is, Joey Lawrence. Who
Well,
later on he became Blossom's brother. But before he was Blossom's brother, he was a little kid who got captured by a woman, and the whole premise of the movie
oh
is
yeah, 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 yeah.
you remember it now, like
Yes, yes, yes,
she
yes.
was gonna cook him,
Yep, yep, yep,
and
yep.
he kept distracting her by reading from Tales from the
From
Dark Side.
right. I was honestly when you had mentioned earlier about Father's Day, I was confusing that in my head with those scenes of him reading from that book while she was trying to cook him.
Yeah, no,
Where's my cake? I was confusing the two scenes, but yeah, yeah, yeah.
yeah, Father's Day was Creep Show the movie, first one.
Right.
Yeah,
And this
but
is
Tales from the
part
Dark Side,
yes,
I love that
the
movie. Like
movie. Yep.
my favorite one is still The Vow. I don't know if you remember The Vow. It was like one of the last stories he read her.
Hmm.
About an artist in New York City who like nobody takes him seriously. His art is trash to them. He goes and gets drunk, and on leaving the bar one night, his friend owns the bar, and his friend's locking up while he's like pissing in the alley, right?
Yeah.
And this gargoyle shows up,
Yeah.
kills his friend, then turns around to him and he's like, "Please don't kill me! Please don't kill me!" And he's like, "Don't mention me. Don't mention this. Don't mention anything you've seen to anyone. You do this, and I'll spare your life." And he even like the thing goes cross your heart, and then like
Yeah.
scratches him and like leaves.
Yep.
And on his way home, running away from that, he runs into a woman, and they fall in love. They have children. The children, like 10 years later down the road, he's a successful artist and stuff. But she finds out about that night by seeing some of his artwork that he had hidden that he drew. And when she confronts him, she goes, "What's this?" And he's like, he's trying to like change the subject and stuff. But she's like, "You promised you'd never tell." And he's looking at her like, "What the fuck you talking about, woman?"
Ah,
And then she starts shedding her skin and she turns into the gargoyle.
yeah.
And his children turn into gargoyles. And of course, he told, so he broke his vow.
Dun, dun,
But
dun.
it's one of my favorite stories. Like anytime like I play like a gargoyle in like RPGs and stuff, I'm
Yeah.
like I'm like that's how it should be. That's how it
Right.
should be. No, like Disney's gargoyle kind of follows suit with that, and that's what's funny. That's what I think is really funny. I think that's why I liked Disney's gargoyle because they're stone creatures that at night turn into gargoyles and by day turn back to stone. In Tales from the Dark Side, the movie that came out way before Disney's Gargoyles,
Yep.
the gargoyles took to stone on top of a building. You know what I'm saying? So I was just like, oh wow, okay.
Somebody at
Uh,
Disney has a pretty good movie collection.
somebody in Disney has a good taste, right? But anyway, there was Tales from the Dark Side, Tales from the Crypt, which that was like my bedtime stories as a kid growing up.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
time to go to bed. Oh, can I watch Tales from the Crypt first?
Sure.
But Tales from the Crypt, Tales from the Dark Side, Monsters. Do you remember Monsters?
Monsters.
Monsters was, um, I might get this wrong, but I want to say like Tales from the Dark Side went bye byes and like replaced it with Monsters. It was really corny intro. Like it's like you see like these monsters watching TV. And they're like, "What's on TV?" And they're like flipping
Oh,
through the channels, and it's weird. But
yeah.
but there was Monsters. Uh,
Yeah.
amazing stories,
Amazing Stories was a good one.
which was like Steven Spielberg's version of all these type things. And of course, the OG Twilight Zone,
Yeah, you can't. I mean,
which still my favorite Twilight Zone episode to this day.
hmm
Don't ask me the name of the episode. I don't remember the name of the episode, but as soon as I start to telling you, the kid with psychic powers.
okay. Yeah. I don't remember the name of it either, but
But you know
yes.
what I'm talking about.
hmm I
That's
do.
because they redid it for Twilight Zone the movie. Like
Um,
Twilight Zone they had Twilight Zone the series that had the episode, and then they redid it for Twilight Zone the movie. And then later on, when they brought back Twilight Zone in like the late '90s, I think it was
yeah.
late '90s, early 2000s. They rehashed Twilight Zone like a new series.
Yep.
They did a follow up episode where the kid was an adult now,
Oh,
and
okay.
they like it was like a continual of his story. I was like, ooh, I like this.
I have to say my favorite Twilight Zone was probably Last Man on Earth.
Wait, is that the one where the guy like wakes up?
He
He
just wants to read some books, man.
Oh, maybe that's not the one I'm thinking.
Yeah, this dude just wants to read a book. Like, and then he finally, the end of the world happens. He's the only survivor. He finds himself outside of a library. His dream has come alive. He can go read a book. Nobody will bother him, not his wife, not the telephone, not the kid down the street. He picks up the book. He sits down and sits on his glasses.
Ooh. So basically, what it
that
is hell.
that is the yes, that is the
That was
that
his
was
hell.
the yes.
So
Yep,
you can read into that.
he's got everything he's ever wanted right at his hand. Last man on earth, nobody can bother him. All he wanted the entire episode was to sit down
Well, here's the
and
thing: you can read into that. Did he actually survive,
right,
or did he go to hell?
right.
You know what I'm saying? Because like
Mhm.
that would be like hell. Like you're stuck there. No one can get you glasses. No one can fix you glasses. You got everything you need, but you ain't getting it.
I would be rummaging through houses trying on everybody's glasses I could find.
Right? I've been looking for like at least readers. I need to find a pair of readers somewhere.
Some
Um, no, the episode I thought you were talking about at first was this guy wakes up. I guess he was in the military.
yeah,
But he's like all by himself, and he's walking through a town, and he's like, "Hello, anybody there?" And he goes into a restaurant, nobody's there and stuff. He's like, "I just want to order a coffee. Can anyone get me a coffee?" And nobody's there. Like, well, you know what? I'll pour myself a coffee. And he goes pour himself a coffee, and he's like shouting out loud, like he's trying to talk to people, right? But there's nobody there. So he goes somewhere else, and he sees nobody. And then he starts going like kind of stir crazy, and he sees a mannequin, and he thinks it's a person. He runs over to it, talking, but it's a mannequin. And eventually, he gets to the point where he's screaming and hollering. He's like, "Isn't anybody out there? Can anybody hear me? This ain't right!" And all this stuff. And he starts freaking out. And what you find out at the end of the episode is he's an astronaut, and they were testing him in a facility how long a man can go in complete darkness and silence.
Oh,
But the whole episode is what you see in his mind.
yeah, that's crazy.
And when they pull him out, they're like, "You were just under 10 minutes," and he's like, "Put me back in. I can. I swear I could do longer." And they're like, "No, you already lasted too long." And I thought that episode was epic for the fact that we didn't even have Man on the Moon yet,
Right.
but they were doing episodes where it was like so futuristic of like uh what happens if you like by yourself in total darkness and shit. I was like that was an epic episode. But yeah, I love Tales from the Dark Side. I love Tales from the Crypt, monsters, one of my favorite amazing stories.
Yeah, it was just the entry, just the opening credits sequence.
Oh, with like the sword and the book and
Yeah, and the music and
yeah,
especially the music though.
yes,
Ah!
yeah, the music for Amazing Stories was epic. I'm sorry though, like the creepiest one still to this day is Tales from the Dark Side because it's like you hear that bow,
Oh yeah,
bow,
I
bow,
hated that.
bow, bow, and that voice where it goes. Let's see if I could do this. Ready? Hold on. Man lives in a sunlit world that he believes to be reality. But there is, unseen by most, another world. One that is just as real, but not as brightly lit. A dark side. Like that whole like intro is like, whoo. And you know that was shot in Pennsylvania too, right?
Right?
Like all the scenes of the opening intro, it was like backwoods of Pennsylvania that they used.
Yeah, like barn. I think it was like an old barn on there.
Barn, woods, brook, something like that.
Brooks, yeah.
But yeah. Tales from the Dark Side by far had the creepiest intro. Then it goes to Tales from the Crypt because I loved anytime that music. Bum, 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 bum. And then I remember Damien when I introduced Tales from the Crypt to him. I'm like, Damien, you gotta watch this. It's scary. And he's watching it. And then all of a sudden the Crypt Keeper sits up and goes, and he was like, holy shit. Like, you weren't expecting that.
No, I was just gonna say, that thing scared the shit out of me. I watched that thing religiously, and every time that jump scare got me. Every
Right?
time,
All right.
man.
You knew it was coming too. You're like, oh,
Yep.
here it comes. It comes. Going down, going downstairs around the corner. Over it. There it is.
Yeah, bastards. I actually had in the late '90s. I had a talking
Crypt
crypt
Keeper.
keeper. Yeah, in
I,
a
I
tuxedo.
I still have one. I don't know if it talks anymore,
Yeah,
but I still have one.
yeah. I
It
kept that
stands like
thing for
almost
a
Barbie
while.
doll height. Mine, like it's a not
Yeah, it
very
was pretty
big,
decent sized. Yeah, it was pretty decent sized. 12 to like maybe 14-inch
but
figure.
I can't say much. You know what else I had? I'm gonna make a confession here.
Oh no.
Yeah, this is a confession. I had an MC Hammer doll.
Oh, nice.
When I was a kid, I wanted one. My mom got me
Uh,
one, and I had like before it was cool, before modern day, where they're like kids can play with dolls and kids can have dolls, and don't you make fun of I was an originator. I had a My Little Pony before I even started kindergarten. I had My Little Pony. It was like teal with like pink hair. I remember it. I had a My Little Pony, and then later on in life, I had an MC Hammer doll. He had purple pants with a purple jacket and like a black mesh shirt,
I
like
remember
muscle
those.
shirt,
Yeah,
and
I
and
remember
he had
those.
his black shoes. I even remember the
That's it.
commercial for it. Do you? I mean, I'm showing the fact that I grew up with TV.
All
I
right.
feel bad, but at the same time, you're an '80s kid. You grew up with TV. I'm sorry.
Yep.
That was your parent. They say that all the time, but it was kind of true from my experience. Like my parent was cable TV.
Yep. The
But
crypt keeper.
I remember the commercial where he was like is like singing about like his like MC Hammer sung the commercial, and he's like something to the beat like that with MC Hammer. You're ready to rap, sing along, or make up your own. I forget because like he came with like a little boom box,
Yeah, the
and it would
boombox, and
play
that
like a
played
little
its
bit of the
own music.
music. Yep. And I jammed out with MC Hammer. But
They had a couple options for clothing with him too, if I don't
yeah,
remember.
there was
Or don't
I had the
there
purple and black, and there was a like a greenish one, I think, or something
Yeah,
like
it had
that.
the gold, then like the full gold lame style.
Oh, and he had sunglasses too, or some sort, like he put
Yeah.
on. But at this time, I would like to remind everyone that you're listening to Ken Bouchard Online, a weekly show about everything and nothing all at once. We pride ourselves in being the nerdy Seinfeld of the Twitch community. So tune in Tuesdays at 7 p.m. Eastern if you would like to be geeky with us. You want to nerd out with us? Tune in and check out. That's what John does. How about it, Ace? You check out.
As soon as I get here, man, I check the fuck out.
He's like, you checked in? Yep. Now I'm checking out.
Yeah, I'm here, brother.
But yeah, I had an MC Hammer doll. I had a My Little Pony. I had girl stuff before it was cool. Okay. Speaking of girl stuff before it was cool, did you know that boys? Because I'm only bringing this up because a lot of people are like, "Oh, he's so trendy and he's such a trendsetter." Like Harry Styles now is like wearing like dresses on the covers of like
Okay.
magazines and stuff,
All right.
and everyone's like, "Oh my god, did you know boys, like little boys, like if you had an infant, used to
Mhm.
wear dresses?"
Yep. I it's actually my dad's in baby picture. He's in a dress. Like
I was gonna say a dress.
yeah, a dress.
Ta-da-bah!
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
yeah,
I don't
yeah. Historically, boys wore dresses and boys wore pink. Pink was actually originally the masculine color.
mm,
Blue was if you were blue, you were feminine. Pink, you were masculine. I don't know when in history we decided to switch the colors or the
you
fact
know
that boys can't wear dresses, but originally boys wore pink dresses.
mm,
So take that for what it's worth, America. You're
yeah,
all sitting there like, oh, look at the trend, look at the fashions, look at him. You know, what goes around comes around. They say what every 80 years history repeats itself.
give or take.
Well, this ain't 80 years,
What's
but
old is new again.
it's yeah, it's spinning. It's spinning around. I'm just waiting for the neon colors to come back. I hope it don't, but I'm waiting for it to come back. I'm waiting for the 80s to return.
Yeah.
We had the bell bottoms. The bell bottoms made a comeback for a while.
Yeah.
The flared, they call them flared legged jeans.
Flare legged.
It
Yeah,
ain't, it's
flare
bell
legged
bottoms.
jeans.
You
Call them
had
what they
fucking, yeah,
were.
you had bell bottoms.
Throw some corduroy on there, scare the shit out of yourself walking home late at night, like somebody's chasing you.
But yeah, I had all those things. But my favorite toy, I think, growing up, my favorite toy for the longest time was that Doctor Doom character. I bring him up every chance I get. That Doctor Doom from the old Marvel Universe action
Yeah,
figures. Speaking of Marvel Universe action figures, did you? Oh man, I wish KB Toys was still around.
maybe someday.
Do you remember like I don't know if you did or not, but I used to go into KB Toys and I loved when they had action figures like 3 for $10.
Oh yeah,
And it was like the newest Marvel action figures. And it was like I don't know if KB Toys just didn't give a fuck anymore, like what the deal was, but they were like, 3 action figures for $10, and I'd be like, mine, 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 mine. I remember going into this one store. It was like everything. It was like this was back way back in the day, like early '90s. It was one of those original like everything for $1
okay, yeah,
before they changed their name because of a lawsuit. No, seriously.
yeah.
I remember the Aroostook Center Mall in Presque Isle, Maine opened up. and they had a store there called Everything for a Dollar. And I shit you not, I even told my mom, I was like, "Mom, we should sue them." And she's like, "Why?" And I'm like, "Well, the store says everything for a dollar, but I can't walk in for with a dollar and buy everything." And she was like, "Oh, Kenny, just stop that. Kenny, just stop that." Sure as shit, somebody somewhere tried it, and when they said, "No, you can't buy everything for a dollar," they got sued. I was like, "I could have been rich, bitch. I could have owned myself a dollar store somewhere." But no, no, don't listen to Kenny. But you know, whatever. But anyway, the store had boxes, boxes, full boxes, 36 packs per box of Marvel Masterpiece trading cards.
Ooh,
And the Hildebrandt brothers did the artwork, and these were like art style cards, not cartoon or comic, like art style. And I remember they were $1 a box, and I was like, "Holy crap, $1 a box!" So I bought like $5 or $6 worth of boxes. Went home, left one box unopened, and just opened up the other four to make like all the sets. Like there was a holofoil set, a hologram set, a Spider-Man set. Like I just sat there and like made all the sets up and had cards to spare. But yeah, I remember that you ain't gonna be able to do that nowadays. But
no.
oh man, that same store had not the death of Superman, but the return of Superman,
Hmm.
and it came in like a white, um, kind of like a plastic covering of the comic.
Okay.
Like literally, you had to tear the plastic open to get to the comic, but it was a white.
No.
It was like a white plastic with the Superman
Oh, okay. I know
symbol.
what you mean. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
I had like a
Yeah.
couple. I had like 2, 3 of those at one point too because I was like, they were like $1. I was like, and I knew at the time I was like, oh man, the Death of Superman is an expensive comic book. I wonder
Hmm.
what the Return of Superman. You know, like I don't know if it ever got money. I don't know if it took value, but I had it. I had it in its white sleeve, and that was all because of these stores that sold like really cheap.
Right.
I remember going into KB Toys. Oh, when I first moved to Altoona, it was 98, 99.
Okay.
I moved to Altoona. I went to KB Toys, and sitting there on a shelf was a full Atari Jaguar in box for like $35. And I was looking at it and I'm like, is that an Atari Jaguar? And they're like, yeah. And I'm like, 64 bits, right? Yeah. And I'm like, is it the full system? Yeah. Do you have any games? Yeah, we got a couple games. I'm like, and you're selling it for
Hmm.
$35, right? Yeah. I'm like, mine. Mine. Never had one. I want one. I regret it. It wasn't worth $35, but still. Walk into KB Toys and walk out with a $35 video game console. You know?
I mean, I'd have talked them down.
Like, will you take 20 for this? I mean, it's one of your last
Right.
ones, and I mean, the controller looks like a friggin' like scientific calculator. Can I? Can we talk you down a little bit? It's not like it was the Atari 64 or 100 or whatever it was,
Yeah.
1800. What is it? I forget the numbers.
26.
Was it 2600?
Hmm. One of them.
I
The
don't know. Why did they
Atari,
always
Atari
have like large
2600.
numbers? What was the
I don't
large
know.
numbers? Atari 2600. Like, wait, there wasn't that many Ataris. Like, what the hell's the 2600? That's
Yeah.
like
The
that's like
greatest gaming system ever made.
well, at least one
Not
with the
quite,
most
but
games ever made.
yeah. Listen, man, when everybody else was buying Nintendos and was talking their parents into buying those expensive games for their $100 game system, I was making bank by going to yard sales because everybody was selling their Atari games for like 10 for a buck or like a dime a piece. I was like, hook me up, man. I had thousands of those damn games.
I had
My mom would see them and buy them up for me, doubles, triples, it didn't matter.
I had the Commodore 6400.
Ooh,
You remember that
fancy.
beast?
Yep.
I had one of those. I didn't know how to operate it. I was a young kid. I didn't know what, like it had a cassette tape. I'm like, what computer has a cassette tape connection? But it did. It had like a cassette
Yep.
tape player, and like I'm looking at this system, and my mom hired some kid from college at the time to come in and like set it up for me.
Yeah.
So I'm sitting there with a Atari 6400, and my mom's like, "Look, you got a computer," and I'm like, "What's it do?" Like, she's like, "You can play
Yeah.
games." I had to like type in like run slash whatever load.
Oh yeah.
That,
Yeah. Lots
that
of
like
C prompt
yeah,
commands.
I was like, I don't know what the I think I played asteroids a couple times on it. But yeah, I had one of those for a little while. I'd use it just to play around and pretend like I knew what I was doing. Like I seriously like I would type on it, but I didn't know what I was typing.
Right. You're just
It was just like click 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 click. It wasn't saving on anything. I didn't know how to save shit at the
right.
time. I don't know DOS. Like I don't know what this is.
Yeah, boy.
And then
I don't know if I've ever seen one of those in actual like working condition.
a 6400.
Yeah.
There's a lot of black and green. Trust me, it's a lot of black and
Yeah,
green.
like I mean, I've the keyboards I've seen 1,000 times, but I've never seen like the display on it, or yeah, I've never seen one in full working order.
I mean, today I wish I still had it.
Yeah, right.
I mean, I wouldn't be able to do shit with it compared to today's stuff, but just
Oh
to be
yeah.
like, oh, gonna load
I
up
mean,
asteroids.
play some
Pew, pew,
Zork,
pew,
wouldn't you?
pew, pew. With Zork? What the heck's that?
Yeah. Oh my god, Ken. Oh
Ace.
my goodness. All right. So Zork was a
Was that RPG
yes.
like
As a matter
text
of fact,
based?
it's the one they're playing in big, to be honest with you.
Okay.
But it was, it's a real thing. It was legit like go north. You can't go that way. You type in go south. You can't go that way. Go east. You can't go that way. Go west. You find a door. Just like
So in other words, it was a petty GM. Like if you play
yes,
RPGs, like I like tabletops, and if you get a GM that doesn't want you to like have an imagination, that's what happens.
right.
That's what
They'll just
happens.
walk you down. Yeah.
It's like
So,
it's like the party. What does the party plan on doing? Well, the party wants to go left. Yeah, but I don't. I want to go right.
yeah.
Okay, well,
Go
go
where you
ahead,
go.
go right. I go right. You die. Like, wait, what?
Yeah, right. Yeah.
Should have went
Be
left with the
fun.
party.
Yeah. You walked right into a tree and bumped your head.
There is no other way. This isn't Mandalore. This ain't Mandalorian. This is
Right.
not the way. I've been watching. All right, I've been trying to catch up on season 3.
I'm kind of. I'm gonna give it a couple more episodes.
That's probably the smart way to go. That way you just kind of watch, go in. I think I missed some episodes of season 2, and I don't know where. I could have swore to
Okay.
God I finished season 2, but
Okay.
then I started watching season 3, and I'm like, how did Grogu come back? The last thing I remember of season 2 was uh, Luke Skywalker showing up and taking him.
Oh yeah, there was more after that.
Yeah, well, I must have zonked out somewhere in between because I was like, oh, look, the end. And then all of a sudden, Grogu's back. And I'm like, wait, did I miss? I missed quite a bit here.
Yeah, you missed quite a bit. You missed something. You need to look
But that's
into that.
okay. It belongs in the universe. There's a new fan fictional universe out there where
Oh,
Pedro Pascal goes around collecting orphans.
oh Lord.
He's in The Last of Us with a orphan girl, and he's in The Mandalorian with the child.
But no Batman to be seen.
No
I
Batman to be
call
seen.
yeah, I call bullshit on that then. If you can't have Batman in it, then you're not really collecting orphans.
Yeah, but do you really want to collect that orphan? I mean, that's an orphan with a lot of issues. I'd
Yeah,
rather
but he's
take
got a lot of money.
yeah, but I'd rather take either the space child, the alien child, or the child with the zombie virus around us over Batman. Okay, Batman's got a lot of issues, and
Right.
he has the rogues gallery. I'm just no, we're good, we're good. Because you think about it, if Batman never showed up, that city would be hell. Just just straight up. I mean, it's not good with him in it.
Yeah, I mean,
But
if he
with
would leave, that city would settle down.
would it settle down? It would just be nothing but crime. I mean, it is
No,
now, but
I think they're just doing it because of Batman.
you feel like they all show up. It's like, fuck this Cape Crusader. We're going to fuck him up. He wants to be
Yeah,
a hero. Not on our watch.
yeah. Like you get rid of him, that town will have nothing better to do. They'll be like, cool. Now that we ain't got to worry about that goofy bastard, we can enjoy our days.
So the Joker's like just waiting. Like once Batman's gone, he's gonna settle down and become a become a
Yeah,
working class citizen.
yeah, yeah. He's going to take a mid-level management job in a high rise, wearing a suit and tie. He's going to give up the purple and green. Going to be wearing khakis and a goddamn. Wait, that's me. Wait,
I was gonna say, wait a
never
minute,
mind.
John. I think you're describing yourself here.
Yeah, wait a minute.
He's
Never
he's
mind.
gonna work at a shoe store.
Right, mid management somewhere.
Right. Um. Yeah. I don't know where I was going with that.
I don't know.
Yeah,
We
you
got
got
off
me all
track.
complexed, all confuddled. I
That's what
think
I'm
I
here
think
for.
I think this is a good time to remind everyone that they're watching Ken Bouchard online. Weekly show about nothing and everything all at once. Tune in Tuesdays at 7 p.m. to catch me and the Ace as we talk about nerdy shit, serious shit, goofy shit, shit, all kinds of shit. That's our show. It's a bunch of shit. But we love it and you love it. That's why you tune in. And if you don't catch us live Tuesdays at 7 p.m. Eastern, you can catch it on YouTube. The link will be somewhere. I'm not sure where yet, but you can catch it on YouTube. Or you can catch the podcast version on Facebook. I wanna bring attention something that just came up there, Ace, not too long
Okay.
ago. Have you ever heard of the Red Shoe conspiracy in Hollywood?
No. What?
So apparently, um, before I go into conspiracy, the conspiracy part of it, I'm gonna tell you recent events. Macaulay Culkin, you know who
Right.
that is, I'm sure. You
Mhm.
you grew up with Home Alone and M-
Kevin.
My Girl and
Right.
The Good Son. I think that was about it, but that was his
Yeah.
movies. But um, he was in France and he went on a radio show where he said he was going to come out with the fat truth. And when he was a young kid during Home Alone 2, he was taken in the back room with a high powered producer or something was in there. And this producer was wearing a pair of red shoes apparently. And he was like, "You want to be rich and famous? You want to be a famous actor? You know?" Pretty much telling him like, "You want to become somebody. You need to drop your parents and follow me, right?" And he was like, "No." Macaulay Culkin was like, "I was a little bit smarter at the time. He's been through shit, so he was like, no, I'm 11-year-old boy. I'm not just gonna leave my parents." But then the guy kind of like made reference to his shoes, like pointing at his shoes, and he's like, "Have you you know what the best leather is?" He's like, "The best type of leather." And he goes on about explaining how like that there's that high upper ups in Hollywood elites will sacrifice children, like they sacrifice child stars, like, and that's said producer turned around to Macaulay Culkin and he's like, "Have you ever heard of the name Heather O'Rourke?" Now, have you ever heard, Ace, of Heather O'Rourke?
Yes. Yes. That was
She
the
was the Poltergeist girl.
yes, the little girl from Portland.
We know as fans and whatnot that she died of a mystery illness. She died of an illness. But
Right.
he turned around to Macaulay and he was like, "You've heard of her?" And Macaulay was like, "Yeah, I like the Poltergeist. I grew up watching Poltergeist." And he's like, the guy was referencing his shoes being made from Heather O'Rourke. Macaulay tried to run out of the room some guy caught him, pushed him back, but eventually Macaulay got out of there. And now, today, he in the studio in the France radio station, he came forward with all this information. Like he's spilling his beans on like the dark side of Hollywood. Now, this this theory, this conspiracy theory has been around for a while, but now that Macaulay Culkin actually came out with like an account, because
Huh?
a conspiracy theory is something, a theory is something that can be proven or disproven. It's kind of like in the air. That's what a theory is. A theory is something that is just an idea. Anytime anyone has a theory, it's an idea. But Macaulay Culkin coming out and saying, "Look, this happened," kind of bumps it from an idea, like a theory, to actual accounts. And sure enough, that happening, um, not long after he did the radio show, the show disappeared. The episode of that show disappeared. Accounts that were written in the magazine was taken away. Like everything, all acknowledgement of him saying this stuff was gone. I mean, it's on the internet because you can't dissolve the internet.
Right.
But where to go? Like, is this legit? Is this a real thing? Is I mean, we know the dark side of Hollywood. There is like the pedophilia thing going on. Like look at Jeffrey Epstein and his list.
Right.
But what about this? Like, is that a legit thing? Like, I've heard long ago about the theory about the Red Shoe Club in Hollywood, and supposedly Heather O'Rourke, her disappearance, her death was not really a disease as much as she became a victim of the Red Shoe Club. But so many elites, I guess, wear red shoes in Hollywood, and it's because they're made from a unique leather.
Or are they just part of the Ronald McDonald House Red Shoe Club?
Because you always have a friend wearing big red shoes. If you
No, like
believe in
legitimately, the
magic.
Ronald McDonald House, it's a legit thing for them. So conspiracy theories that come out about, well, they're wearing red shoes. Okay, what about that crazy old lady that I see walking down the street with the big red hat, who's part of the Red Hat Club? You know, the Red Hat Society.
I'm part of the Red Lens Society.
You know what I mean? Like it's one of those things where, first of all, I mean, yeah, it probably is happening, but what the fuck are you gonna do about it?
Well, Macaulay, nothing. But like,
Uh, you know, you know what I mean? What you gonna put fucking Donald Trump back in office to stop the pedophiles?
because
We
that'd
tried
be a
that.
good
That didn't
thing.
fucking work.
That'd be a good thing.
That did well. That's what I'm saying. We already tried that, and that didn't fucking work. So what are you
Oh,
gonna
if
do now?
anything, Jeffrey Epstein's list came out though. Who's on it? We don't know.
Yeah, we don't know.
We're still waiting for that list to be popped out.
You know, my thing is, I am not a fan of conspiracy theories in general. I think people who spout conspiracy theories, think about conspiracy theories, or even, you know what I mean, or but actually the people that fucking believe in them. I'm so done with this fucking planet over conspiracy theories. You know what I mean? It's one of those words and phrases that is so fucking embedded and is spit out at least 19 fucking times a day. It's a conspiracy theory. It's a conspiracy. Fuck you and your conspiracies until somebody can bring out real fucking proof, not something from some drug addict fucking kid from Hollywood. Yes, he may be a witness and maybe he's on drugs because of that. But at some point, he's not right in the head, whether it was because of or not. If you're going to bring proof, bring legal fucking proof. Legal fucking proof.
Hey Ace,
Yeah.
why don't you tell us how you really feel?
I'm hungry. I have a fucking kidney stone, and we've been at this for almost an hour and
Oh, listen to
a
you.
half.
Okay,
that's how
listen to
I
you.
really feel. That's how I really feel.
Tomorrow night I'll go for 3 hours, and that's okay. No, I'm just kidding. I'm
Yes,
just
but
kidding.
I'll have dinner before then.
Well, I'm
Don't start
sorry you
bullshit.
didn't eat dinner when
Have a
you
good
know
night,
this
Ken.
show goes on at 7. I'm sorry. Hello? Hello? I lost Ace. I don't know what happened. I got him mad. Well, Ace, if you're still listening, I hope your kidney stone heals. And yeah. We lost Ace. This is not good. Just so you guys know, I'm only messing with Ace. I really don't think, he's a good guy. I don't know what's going on. I just lost him. I don't know what happened. My clapping. Ah, I lost him. But anyway, I think I am going to wrap up the show. Yeah, he left and I had so much other things to talk about. But that means you guys are going to have to tune in next week, next Tuesday, to find out what else I had to say because, I got a lot to say because that's what I do. Until next time, guys, Ace ain't here to say goodbye, but I will say goodbye for him. And stay freaky, stay geeky. And remember, Tuesdays, tune in. Peace.